Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Community Awareness. If I could get everybody to please stand, we're going to do the Pledge of Allegiance. Flag is over there. I pledge. Just a couple of reminders to please silence your cell phones so they don't go off during our presentation, kind of like church on Sunday. And when we have our presentation, please hold your questions for the very end. It kind of disrupts everything if you ask a question beforehand and she hasn't finished with her presentation. But right now I'm going to introduce Mike Romero. He's our Director of Securitas.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you, Michelle, for having us, as always. My name is Mike. I am your Director of Security here at Sun Lakes. With me is Lieutenant Roman. And hello to everybody out there in TV land. The report's going to be real brief. I just want to touch up on a few items that the community should be aware about, specifically the northern side of the community. With the rise of suspicious activity and trespassing around Sun Lakes, security patrols have been proactive in observing and intercepting individuals attempting to enter. The northern side of Sun Lakes, particularly along the wall near the train tracks, experienced a noticeable increase of incidents. In response, I directed my team to intensify patrols outside the perimeter near the tracks and closely monitor the condition of the wall and fencing to prevent any breaches. Thanks to coordinated efforts with the city of Banning and PD, a significant cleanup took place in August, which included the removal of encampments, trash, and overgrowth near the shopping center where unhoused individuals had been sheltering. Security also confirmed that trespassers were exploiting the auxiliary exit gate near gate number 2 by the new dog park, slipping in behind vehicles or golf carts during moments of low visibility. These individuals were intercepted and reported by our team. As preventive measures, the auxiliary exit has now been permanently closed to vehicle traffic, and we kindly ask residents and guests to continue using the primary exit at gate number 2. The pedestrian gate will remain accessible, but we strongly encourage residents to ensure it's securely closed after use. Together, these steps will help us maintain the integrity of the community's perimeter and reduce the risk of unauthorized entry. One little subject that I do want to touch with most of our residents, and I've brought this up in the past, getting to know your neighbors is crucial for fostering a supportive community, enhancing personal safety, and preventing social isolation. Neighborly relationships offer a built-in network of support, helping to address age-related challenges and improve overall quality of life here at Sun Lakes. In recent months, our call center has seen an increase in welfare checks initiated by friends and family. Our officers are trained to assess and respond appropriately when someone may be in need of aid inside their home. Sadly, there are times when calls come a little too late, leaving security unable to help beyond waiting for Banning PD and the fire department to arrive to make an entry. To help prevent such heartbreaking situations, we encourage residents to check in with their neighbors regularly, exchange contact information, and look out for changes in routines or behavior that may indicate someone needs help. A simple conversation or visit could make all the difference in ensuring that assistance is provided in time. Quick reminder, parking enforcement is done throughout all of our hours, and patrol will issue parking violations should a resident or guest be in violation. Make sure that you and your guests have valid passes always displayed on your dashboards and park only in designated areas. Passes can be obtained through our gates or administration team if you need extended time frames or exceed the 3 days and 2 nights. In closing, the safety and well-being of our community depend not only on the vigilance of security, but also on the involvement of every resident. By getting to know our neighbors, by staying alert to suspicious activity, and taking simple preventative steps like securing gates, reporting concerns promptly, we can strengthen our collective security and reduce risks before they escalate. Our officers remain committed to proactive patrols, rapid responses, and collaborations with local agencies, but true community safety is in partnership. Together, we can create an environment with residents feel secure, supported, and connected. That's all for me. I'm open to any questions.
Linda,
Yes, ma'am.
just a minute. I want to ask a question, Michael. Golf carts do not have the right-of-way like pedestrians do, correct? Here. They are subject to the same rules and regulations as a full-size automobile.
That is correct. That is a big factor here at Sun Lakes as well. Pedestrian safety is a big concern, specifically in intersections where golf carts are obviously seen either speeding or not complying with stop signs or yielding to residents. So I always encourage residents to look both ways. If you do see any type of violation, try to get a golf cart number, any type of description, give us a call. We will report that. We'll make a report on your behalf, and we'll send it over to administration to try to hold those accountable. But it is a big concern, Michelle, that we do need to address that.
So what we really need to make sure is that all you golfers out there, you have the same rules and regulations as our regular vehicles. I almost got hit by 2 golf carts that were just speeding. They didn't even look. And once I was walking, the other one I was driving. They're not looking. And so I'm asking all you golfers out there to please, please adhere to the rules and regulations that our automobiles, our vehicles have to adhere to too. Please, thank you.
Yes, and minors should not be driving golf carts. So if your grandkids are telling you, hey, it's okay, I can drive, don't let them.
It's not only golfers driving those golf carts, Michelle. The majority of them are driven by just people who are not paying attention and
It
not
doesn't matter, I
stopping.
mean, golf cart people in general.
Yeah, in general, anybody that drives a golf cart should comply with Sun Lake's safety regulations when they're out on the road.
As to your thing about parking violations, has there been an uptick in parking violations?
There has been an uptick in parking regulations, and I brought this up on my last meeting, in the open session meeting. Thank you to all the district delegates that have made it a point in reaching out to our security staff, including myself, to report any violations that we might have missed. We respond appropriately, accordingly, and quickly. So any district delegates that have residents that are requesting for us to look into specific vehicles that may have been parked there for more than 3 days, as long as they don't have a handicap placard displayed, then it's a green light for us to start issuing citations. But if it does have a handicap disabled placard, due to ADA regulations, we don't want to specifically target those vehicles. They are entitled to park on the street, on their driveway, due to those liabilities.
Michael, can I ask you one question?
Absolutely.
If they have a 2-car garage and they have 1 car and that car's parked outside, why can't they park it inside?
That is a good question. And I believe it's more by choice that they're parking the vehicle outside. But
Isn't that more of a danger? They
It
have to
is.
come down the
is.
slope on their driveway?
It is.
That's more of a danger than parking in their garage.
It is. We tend to make it a point by making contact with those individuals. Where the line is, though, is if they do have, like I said, a disabled placard, I can't really force them to relocate their vehicles. But we try to educate every single situation as much as we can when we come across it.
There's a lot on Rolling Hills. Just
Yes.
telling you guys.
Is it possible to have a designation on a vehicle that it is a caregiver? Because I understand it's happened in my district that if it is a registered caregiver, they also can park outdoors.
So the caregiver pass is a special pass that we do issue at the gates. However, caregivers need to register with the association as listed caregivers, okay?
Absolutely, but can there be a designation? Because I get complaints from my residents that there are cars that don't have a handicap sticker, and sometimes it's a caregiver. And is there some way that you could give them a pass that they would put in their window when they're in here so that people will not have to complain?
I 100% agree with you, but thankfully we do have such pass. We do. We do issue gate passes, and when we make it a point to ask, our residents when they call us, most of our residents will let us know. I have Miss Susie Smith, who is a registered caregiver. We'll put that on the gate pass. It'll say caregiver on the very top of the pass. They need to display that on their dashboard so that we can determine if that's a caregiver or just a regular guest pass. Yes.
I have a question about the security breach on the north side by the railroad tracks.
Yes.
Is that happening mainly during the day or night?
No, it's mostly during the night. So thank you for bringing that up.
Well, I have a question.
Sure.
Is there any way of securing lights, motion lights, along that fence line?
That's something that we can work with the master board with as a recommendation. Anything that I bring up to the master board is safety and security related. We'll discuss amongst each other to see what proactive measures we can take to remedy any of those issues. Yeah, so with your concern at the northern part, when we did have a breach in that fence line, it's right at the very corner where Sun Lake's property ends and the railroad tracks begin. When we found out about that, because it's not the first time that this incident has happened in that location, so I made it a point to actually post an officer in that corner while the breach was getting repaired. That's just to assure our residents that we are on top of it. We're also closely monitoring the activity. If somebody were to try to breach the perimeter, we'll catch them right away. So during that time, I had an officer posted for, I believe it was 2-day period. The breach was fixed immediately. The board got on it with administration. The work repairs were resolved right away, and then we were able to pull our officers there. Due to that, though, once we relieved our officer from that post, I encouraged my patrol team to continue doing their checks up there. With the ease of access that we recently have up near the RV lot, we're able to actually patrol outside of Sun Lakes towards the train track and monitor any more activity around the dirt area beyond the train tracks so that we can be on top of that and get it resolved right away. So we're 100% on that for you.
Observation. This morning, my husband and I were coming out Gate 5. We're going to Sun Lakes Boulevard, get the freeway, and my husband says, "Oh my gosh, that guy just jumped over a fence." And he jumped over, or she, I didn't see it. My husband saw it. It disappeared, came onto Highland Springs. So we need to be really observant,
Yes,
to
absolutely.
strange
And
people walking around.
Absolutely. See something, say something is my go-to. So if in that situation, I would encourage to call us that very moment, take the time to pull over. Hey, this just happened right now. It looks like they're between Gate 5 or the street light. We'll make it a point to go out there and search for the individual. Yeah.
Don't forget, if you see something, don't just pass it off and not do anything about it. Call Securitas, or if you feel threatened or something happened, call 911. It's better to be safe than to be sorry and to be after the fact. So I know that Mike's team will go out there and they will address it immediately. But if you don't call and you're just telling us something, there's nothing they can do about it now.
We have been very successful in the last couple of months with our training and also with our observations and how reports are coming along. We have a high number in terms of how great we've been in intercepting these individuals, apprehending them, and getting PD involved if need be. So we're making it a point to let these guys know trespassing in Sun Lakes is no joke. We're going to inconvenience you. We have orders with the city to start making arrest requests with Banning PD. So if anybody attempts to trespass, they're going to be warned. We're going to let them know you're in the process of either getting arrested if you fail to not, to leave the premises. And normally that's what gets them going. But normally we don't see a lot of the same faces come back. These last couple of months we've been proactive, like I said, and they're kind of getting the hint that we're not messing around here at Sun Lakes anymore.
Kate?
Yes.
I'm new to the golf cart driving community, though I've been here a long time, but when I drive, and vehicles have the right of way, so if someone's behind me and I'm constantly monitoring that mirrors, I pull over, and if I see that it's safe for them to pass, I go ahead, pass. Is that what we're supposed to do, or just pull over, or?
It's a common sense kind of call. I think it's in your safety's best interest to do so because you never know if that person's not paying attention to you. Right. So if you do see a vehicle that's right on your tail, pull over to the side. Just let that vehicle go through. If you notice that vehicle is speeding excessively through the community and you're able to take a quick glance at the license plate, give us a call. We'll see who that vehicle belongs to, and we'll let them know what they're doing.
To let you also know, I know that Banning PD and the railroad got together, as Michael was saying, and they cleaned all that up. I know Creation Equity cleaned all theirs up there, and they cut all that down. Well, guess what? Now they're hiding behind on the other side now. So the problem is we don't have any place to put them. I know Opportunity Village is still open. I know a lot of people have said it's closed, but it is not closed. It is still open. And I don't know who's running it right now. I haven't gone to the city council meetings to find out exactly what's going on. But I know SWAG is no longer involved in the city of Banning. So I'm not sure how the police department is carrying on with this. So hopefully next month I can get the police department out here and give us some information and background on what they're doing to keep the homeless away.
Yep.
And I know they can't, they arrest them and then they have to release them. And then where do they release them? Back to where they came from.
Yeah, it's a give or take situation with Banning PD, but we're going to continue working with their department. They do communicate with us when they're done doing what they're doing in certain sections of the community, and I do have direct contact with the chief of police, Officer Avila as well. We're all on it on the same gameplay for Sun Lake, so we're going to make sure that we're doing our due diligence out there for the community.
Okay, I have a couple of questions
Sure.
for you. When I come in, I live right off of Savannah, and I use Gate 3. When I come in, there's a stop sign there, and then you stop and turn right. Well, I would say 99% of the people never stop. And then, of course, people are coming from the north side over, and so that worried me, But I watch them just to see if they'll stop, and they don't. That's one of our problems. Another one of the problems is at Gate 3 now, I have seen there's a gentleman that is on a motorcycle, and he'll be out there like he's doing something to this thing, and then he gets on it and does his little motion things. In other words, he's just distracting. And as soon as somebody comes in, he follows them right in.
Right there.
And that seems to be a problem, that people come right up behind me, and they want to get through the gate right behind me. So that's another one of the problems. And I like the new thing they have put down, so I'm hoping that it doesn't continue that way. The second thing I wanted to ask you also, being handicapped, I have a neighbor that has her car parked in her driveway 24 hours. Is that
Does it have a disabled placard on it?
well, I never have looked, but she is an older woman, but she's out gardening all the time. But I wanted to make sure because being handicapped, there are times when, yes, I need it to be out there. So I didn't know, can it be parked out there permanently? 'Cause
No, it cannot be parked out there permanently.
Okay.
So either they do have a valid pass that we issued through the gates, or they do have a disabled placard.
Okay, well, she's a resident, and she's on a corner.
Yeah.
And she is, her car is parked there all the time now.
So we are catching as many violations as we can. And I know this for a fact because when I come back every morning, I do have a stack of citations sitting at my desk. So it gives me a general idea of what target areas we're focusing on. We have Breckenridge, we have Savannah, we have Olympic, we have Riviera, we have Fairway Villas as well. A lot of the condo areas, we're trying to focus on several areas as much as we can. Our patrol units are designed to be in certain areas at certain time, but keep in mind that we do have calls sometimes that prevent us from going to certain calls. So we're prioritizing emergency calls as they come along. But citations are being issued. I know my team is out there, they're catching them as best as they can. Hence why we encourage district delegates to let us know if there is a resident that wants to bring up a concern on a specific home or a specific vehicle. Get the details, give me a call directly. I'm accessible to the community 24 hours. So if you do have your district delegate get in touch with me, within minutes I can have somebody go check that property for you, okay? And then going back to your Gate 3, Gate 3 is heavily monitored, folks. So one of the things that we do catch are what we call piggybackers. So what that means is that once a resident's RFID tag is picked up by the reader, gate arm goes up, iron gate opens up, vehicle goes through, that arm should come right down, right? Well, if there's somebody right behind your vehicle, maybe within inches or a foot of distance, and they're trying to follow you right through that gate arm's not going to come down. It's detecting a vehicle there. So once the vehicles are clear, that's when it's going to start closing up. Hence, we always encourage residents, one vehicle at a time. Once you go through that gate arm, past the iron, if you want to wait for that gate arm to come down, you can. So that way you're preventing somebody from coming right behind you. So that intersection, Riviera in front of gate number 3, it is a heavy use intersection. We've seen a lot of incidents happen in that intersection due to carelessness. Sometimes there are some fender benders there. Caution, just be cautious when you're using that intersection. Like I said, we do have cameras, so we're able to observe any incident that takes place if there's an accident, and we'll go out there, respond, and help if needed. But the trespassing can be resolved by just having residents be cautious when entering through gate number 3 and making sure there's nobody following really close behind you. I do have cases where residents call me right away. I just came through gate 3. This person was right on me. As soon as I came through, they made a left on Riviera. It's XYZ vehicle, a white Toyota, whatever the case may be. We're out there looking for that vehicle. We'll locate the vehicle, make contact with the resident, letting them know, hey, your guest just trespassed. They didn't properly check in at the gate with our officers. We didn't issue a pass. We don't know if they're even allowed to come here or not. So a lot of residents appreciate that we're out there and making contact with those individuals, because that gives them the sense that we're actually paying attention. Yes. Yes, it's a better automated system. The master board invested heavily on that system, so kudos to them for making sure that we're up to date with the technology here at Sun Lakes. Yeah, and they're really great gate arms. We went from the wood to those specific gate arms, and as soon as they get hit, they automatically pop off, which prevents any damage to any vehicles, and it prevents costs from having to replace the gate arm with a wooden one time and time again. We simply go out there and pop it back in, so it's ease of access.
Okay, we're going to take one more question. Go ahead.
There's lots of speeders up on Birdie up at the top, and I believe it's been reported already.
Yes.
And they want a speed bump up there, so I'm just here to kind of knock on that.
Yeah, absolutely. Speeding issues are reported. You're not the only district that has reported speeding issues. They are actually reported almost on a daily basis.
I mean, they're really
Yes.
speeding. I mean, 45, 50, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I'm not law enforcement or have the ability to pull anybody over and issue them a traffic violation, but education is a start. We can make the calls, we can make our reports, and if we do know who it is, we can start educating them in terms of what the Sun Lakes regulations are for speeding. Okay? Thank you so much for your time, folks. I appreciate it. Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you, Mike. Okay, so now we have Jessa Koch from the Loma Linda University. She's going to go ahead and give our presentation, so I'd like to introduce Jessa. So Jessa, go ahead.
Thank you. Hello, can you hear me? Okay, perfect. Yes, and before I get started, I want to introduce my student pharmacist, Megan. Megan, if you don't mind, just to share a little bit about your experience within the field of pharmacy.
Yeah, of course. Hi, my name's Megan. I am a third-year pharmacy student. I've been a technician since 2021, so I've kind of just been in the field for a while. I was local here at the Walgreens off of Highland Springs, Walgreens in Yucaipa, and then now I actually work at Loma Linda University outpatient pharmacy. But yeah, I live right here in Cherry Valley, so this is very near and dear. This is my community, so I always love to give back.
Thank you. So I'll be pausing at times, and then both of us will be fielding questions. Megan has some different experiences than even I do. But I'm Jessa Koch. I'm a pharmacist, and I'm faculty at the School of Pharmacy. I've been a pharmacist now for over 10 years. I'm going to talk about staying safe with medications, what I think every adult should know, but this is obviously not an all-inclusive list, so I'd also love to hear if there's other things that you've heard, and then we'll make sure that there's plenty of time for any questions, and hopefully we have the answers as well. So I know you might not be able, those of you who are in the room with me, might not be able to see everything I was saying. My eyesight's not the best, but these will just kind of be little talking points more for myself. There is not necessarily critical information contained within the slides. Hopefully I am giving you that information. But first I'm going to just describe how aging affects medications and how they work in the body. What are some of the natural changes that just happen and things to be aware of? Identify medications that may be, sorry, was that a question? Okay. Identify medications that may be unsafe or higher risk and reasons for where those risks lie. Apply safe medication practices. This is your homework. If you're doing it well, keep doing it. If there's ways to improve, apply some of these practices. Recognize the role of preventative health, really focusing on, we're going to talk about vaccines. And then know what questions to ask all healthcare providers to stay safe and get the most out of your medications. And putting in a plug for your pharmacist as well, what questions to ask, how we can help you in the community. So why is this important? Well, because we all want to be safe. We just talked about safety in the different contexts, but we want to be safe also with medications, making sure that we just continue to be safe, get the most out of our experience. So, the importance also just numbers. So 80% of adults 65 and over take at least one prescription daily. Medication-related problems cause 1.3 million ER visits annually. So emergency room visits. And really, and why I'm here is that many of these are preventable. So my quick poll with just a show of hands is, if you feel comfortable, raise your hand if you take 3 or more prescription medications daily. All right. So for those that might be viewing this on the channel, the majority of individuals raise their hand. Now raise your hand if you use an over-the-counter medication, so non-prescription, and or supplements on a daily basis. All right, even more hands. Can I see that one more time? Okay, I think I had almost everybody's hand this time. So we're all taking some form of pill, medication, or supplement on a daily basis. So just the natural process, what is happening as we get older? What is happening? So the first thing is that our liver isn't metabolizing, it's not kind of chewing the medications up as quickly. Things slow down a bit. So why does this matter? A lot of our medications go through our liver to then, sometimes they become an active medication. Sometimes this is just how the medication is getting through your body to then ultimately get eliminated. And so if it slows down, this process slows down, would we expect the medication levels to go up or down? Up. In some cases, it could go down too. It depends. If the liver was needing to change an inactive medication, what we call a prodrug, to an active medication, if the liver slowed down, we might actually get lower levels. But a lot of times it might be that levels are higher when this isn't as quickly. Does that mean you stop the medication? No, not necessarily. It just means we adjust the dose. The other thing is our kidneys. Kidneys aren't eliminating. They're not working quite as well. Again, medications, this is usually kind of the last place, and a lot of our medications go through our kidneys. Doesn't mean that you stop taking these medications. A lot of times it just means the dose needs to be adjusted. And this is something that when you do and just get labs done, it's important that, this is why you want to get those labs done, is to make sure that your kidneys, kind of what's going on, are there adjustments that are needed? If you go to a pharmacy, if you have those labs available, it can be helpful too for that pharmacist. A lot of times they don't have access to the health records in the community setting always. So if you have those labs even for that safety evaluation part. And just in general, greater sensitivity to side effects. This could be due to the fact if we've kept a medication dose at a level, but the liver slowed down, it needs to be adjusted, but the dose hasn't changed, more likely to get side effects. Same thing with the kidneys. If the dose has been kept the same, but it really actually needs to be adjusted and lowered, you're more likely to have side effects. Sometimes we have side effects that might not be as common in younger adults, but are more common in older adults. We just see some of the things. The same thing if you think of little kiddos. If my young kid takes, I haven't had to give her Benadryl, but Benadryl the other name is diphenhydramine. If I took Benadryl, I am asleep for a day and a half. If my daughter, what I know, I haven't had to give it, so I can't say this is truly what's happened, but in our little kiddos, they're more likely to have the paradoxical effect, so it could make them hyper. My mom actually has that effect from Benadryl. Is she is hyper, she cannot sleep and has insomnia. So again, there's also just some difference in side effects as our body ages. Then just some common age-related concerns, how this could impact things. Memory, memory, obviously, there's a number of ways that this can impact things. But the other thing is sometimes our medications are not appropriate and could be impacting our memory. I just had an individual who, I think 65 years old, on a medication that would say was not the safest for her and was having memory concerns. We got rid of it. Memory, fine, doesn't have complaints. So there are just things that we can adjust. But also, if memory is something kind of as itself, making sure, what is your routine for taking your medications? Is there a way to make sure you're taking your medication? I myself take 1 prescription medication a day. I'll admit, I have some steps to improve here. I don't have a pill box, and I really should, because the truth of the matter is I try to take it the same day every day. It's where I get ready in the morning. But then there are just those days, one of my young kids comes in, I get distracted. Hours later, I'm like, did I take it today? Did I not? So, again, just thinking of these things. And then the more medications you have, the more chances or the greater the impact of actually missing a dose can be. Other thing, age-related concern could be vision and hearing. How does this apply to medication? Well, to be able to see if the labeling, if you're using like an insulin syringe or an insulin pen, being able to see the dosage, maybe needing to get an adjustment there, get assistance. There are some different assist devices out there. So again, the impact that can have. Hearing, have you heard? Making sure to get materials, both written as well as verbally. I need all of this too. The other thing I'm gonna throw out there as well is I really highly recommend, we'll talk about it in a little while, but medication list. On that medication list, I would also indicate if you typically are wearing hearing aids or glasses. The reason I say that is if you were hospitalized, you go in the, God forbid, you go in the ambulance to the hospital, you're really not with anybody that you know at that moment, but your glasses did not come with you, or hearing aids. You're gonna present probably rather confused. I am pretty blind without my glasses. We hope that people will pick up on this fact, but it's not always perfect. So again, just including that information with just any, medication list, something that EMS, just so that, again, there's that awareness. I did my training in a VA hospital. I would get consulted for delirium rounds. And the good news was most often it was that the veteran wasn't wearing his hearing aid or the glasses weren't there. And so, repeating questions, seeming confused, again, very preventable as well. So not directly medication related, but just another thing to share. So now this leads to the other aspect, polypharmacy. What is polypharmacy? I know it's a pharmacy term. We'd like to throw this around all the time in school. So polypharmacy is, in essence, means too many medications. Too many medication. Poly, too many, but just means too many medications. So you might feel that way, that you have too many, but it also, again, could very easily be the reality as well of, oh yeah, there's a lot of medications here, but even sometimes one medication is too many, okay? What's the problem? The problem is obviously the more medications, there's the greater chance of side effects, the greater chance of interactions. It doesn't mean that those medications aren't indicated. What we really want to do as pharmacists is really optimize those medication regimens. And again, like I said, if you feel that one medication is too much, even sharing that with your provider, what is the indication for it? Is it something that you really should be taking? Or is there, is it time that you could, take a holiday from it or come off? The other problem with too many medications is what we call the prescribing cascade. This is what happens, and this is the polypharmacy that I really don't like. The too many meds that I really don't like is we have added a medication to treat a side effect of another medication. And this is so common. Again, there are those cases where this is necessary, but a lot of times this is also very preventable. And it can be switching that first medication to another one that doesn't have the same side effect. But again, trying to ask those questions too. Is this something that could be prevented? Sometimes it can't be. When it comes to chemotherapy, oncology, a lot of times, some of those regimens, I'm sure we all think of nausea, vomiting. And again, not necessarily preventable, but for certain medications, something causes insomnia, let's give you something to treat the insomnia. We've entered a prescribing cascade. So now this leads me to risky prescription and over-the-counter medications. So I know I've listed some here. I'll rely on maybe you're also having trouble seeing these, so maybe you can't see some of the answers. But if you can, that's fine. You can share them. But I guess I want to know what are some medications that you have heard of or know of as being more risky or unsafe? Doesn't need to matter about age. Ibuprofen. That's a good one. Okay. Any others? Aspirin. Okay. Yes. Aleve, naproxen. Okay. Tylenol. Possibly. We'll talk about it. Benadryl. Yes. Okay. I'm really going to talk about Benadryl, but all of these I will touch upon. Others. Aspirin. Alcohol. Good, I have that. That is, I'm not here today for that talk, but a lot do use alcohol as a form of self-medication. So some view it as a medication, but yes, alcohol unsafe in combo with drugs a lot of times. Others?
I was on that pain pill for many years due to an accident I had when I was 31. And after 19 surgeries, one of the first things I noticed, and because living here, I came and retired in 2003, I noticed immediately that I was forgetting people's names. And it was like, they were having like you go into a room, you come out, into the room for, and that's the effect of pain pills.
Excellent. So we also have pain pills as well, which we can consider still with the Aleve, aspirin, but also our opioid pain medications too. Excellent. So we hit on a lot. I mean, all medications could be considered unsafe in some way or another, but the ones that I did really want to touch on are sleeping medications. Specifically, the class of medications is called benzodiazepines, but this includes medications like Ativan, temazepam. So trazodone's actually different. Trazodone's a bit unique. Yes. ZzzQuil? Oh, so great question. So ZzzQuil is, yes. And we'll talk about ZzzQuil. Yes, so again, those over-the-counter as well. So ZzzQuil being the over-the-counter, I don't like it. I don't like it, especially as we get older, and we'll talk about why. And then what we call our Z drugs, so this is Zolpidem, Zaloplan, Azopiclone, Lunesta, Ambien. So why are these unsafe? One is that they can impact our cognition, and especially as we get older. They also can make us really tired. We can also see a hangover effect, so that drowsiness. We talked about golf carts, and drivers earlier, and some of the incidents of people not paying attention. Well, if you're driving when you have a hangover effect, you're probably not going to be the best driver here. So again, these medications, as things slow down a little bit in our body, they can last a little bit longer. Does it mean to stop them? No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that there are sometimes alternatives or dose adjustments. Pain medications. So you have hit on so many. So we hit on what we call our NSAIDs. So the NSAIDs include ibuprofen, which is Advil, Motrin. We have our naproxen, or Aleve in this class. Aspirin is kind of, I'm going to put it there for now as well, are the most, and these are the over-the-counter, but also can be available with a prescription. The problem with these is that we have some heart and kidney risks as we get older with these medications that they can cause, especially with high blood pressure, concerns as well as kidney concerns. And if the kidney, as we mentioned, this is natural. If it's slowing down, not working quite as well, these can be really dangerous. Also, increased bleeding. And, sometimes we're on a medication already. Maybe we have an irregular heart rate. Maybe we had a clot at some point and we're on a medication that already increases our risk of bleeding. Adding an NSAID here further increases that risk. And so, not the safest. Typically, Tylenol, acetaminophen would be a safer option, but we do need to follow the dosing recommendations. So Tylenol by itself, acetaminophen, can still be unsafe in the sense that we have lots of products that contain it. And so knowing what you're taking is really the key, and then how much of it. The opioids, we're familiar with the opioid epidemic. So we heard here that the pain medications were impacting memory. Again, we have some concern for cognition. Also very constipating. That is a side effect of the opioids that typically you never gain a tolerance to. So it doesn't necessarily mean it's unsafe, just unpleasant. But really the biggest thing, why are we talking about opioids all the time? Opioid overdose. And what is an opioid overdose? It is someone stops breathing. Somebody stops breathing, they have what we call respiratory depression, their breathing slows. Again, this is a natural aspect, like this is if you take so much of an opioid, your body is going to really slow down its breathing. So that is also the concerns with the opioids as well. And then the ZzzQuil. So we have these medications that we call anticholinergic. I expect my students to know this, but I don't expect anyone else to. So our anticholinergic medications, basically they lead to drying up effects, and these are the meds that we definitely want to try to avoid if we can, especially as we get older. But I would say really all the time, because as I tell you what the side effects are, they're not the best tolerated for anybody. So the drying effects. Urinary retention, so not being able to as freely use the bathroom. Really unpleasant, especially in our male individuals that might already have a prostate problem. You're going to be rather uncomfortable. But again, everybody, constipation. Again, most people don't want to be constipated chronically. So again, constipation, drying up. Other is sedation. They really make you sleepy. We can have some trouble seeing, as well as they make you feel warmer sometimes. Not as easily able to sweat, but just kind of overall increased kind of body temperature. And then really the biggest concern is for the cognition. They really are slowing things down and increasing the risk for falls. And so what are medications that fall here? This is where ZzzQuil falls. This is where ZzzQuil falls. This is where Benadryl or diphenhydramine falls. This is where, trying to think of, can you think of other big common, the two that really come to mind? We have a lot of medications that have some of these properties, but I would say that the two that I am usually get and people are taking, again, because it's over the counter too, you can get Benadryl, you can get ZzzQuil over the counter, but something that, really trying to eliminate if we can. So I just threw up, what are some example risky medications, and pretty much this was shared. I put oxycodone, so this is one of our opioids. I put alprazolam. This is Xanax. This is a benzodiazepine. We have quetiapine or Seroquel. We have the diphenhydramine or the Benadryl, and then we have ibuprofen. So again, it's not that this is, you saw this from Jess's slides today. We talked about these risky meds. I am not saying in any way to stop these medications, just to be aware of, again, certain meds that we think, we can purchase, again, over the counter, don't need a prescription, but they all do carry risks, and just being informed of those risks. So I had a case example. So I have Mrs. J. She's a 75-year-old woman who takes Tylenol PM to help her sleep at night. So let's see what is in this medication and determine if it's a safe option for sleep. So, does anyone know what are there are two, and you may use your devices. There are two products in Tylenol PM. Anyone know what those two products are? Yes. So I got one response. It's Benadryl and then acetaminophen. Excellent. Teamwork. Yes. So it is diphenhydramine, which is Benadryl, and then the acetaminophen.
Is in Tylenol PM?
Uh-huh. That's where the PM is, because it's helping you sleep. We're using the property of the Benadryl, which makes you sleepy. And so that's why, again, so being aware of it. And, we did talk about, but again, this is where, too, if you are having, I can't read this. If you're having trouble reading this on the bottle itself, which I have some trouble with that, again, this is my plug again to go to see the pharmacist, the pharmacy intern, the technician there for some assistance to tell you, again, if you're having trouble, because these are over the counter, but this is tiny and it's a lot. But really, the bottom line that I'm sharing here is that Tylenol PM is our acetaminophen and our diphenhydramine. The Benadryl is the part that I'm more concerned by as we get older because of confusion, the over-sedation. As I mentioned, I'm very sensitive to the diphenhydramine, and if I take a Tylenol PM, I am wiped out for over a day later. The other issue is that the Benadryl part and the ZzzQuil is that their body does develop a tolerance after 10 days. And so just to be aware that when it comes to our sleeping medications, really trying to aim for short-term use. But yes, so the Tylenol PM, the other thing is that with cough and cold, with these combination products, just seeing what are the products in that. It sounds nice, but again, look at what are those products and what are their purposes. For this individual, she's wanting to sleep. So does she need the Tylenol? Does she need the pain reliever? No. I mean, I didn't share that she had pain leading to her trouble sleeping. So as my students, sometimes they throw in these extra details that I didn't give them. So no, really, again, we're talking about her just maybe needing some help with her sleep. So we have, medication that just might not be even necessary, and then the other that I have concerns about.
And then kind of going off of what she was saying too, that it's always a good idea to always go and ask the pharmacist too. You can always ask them, hey, is this safe? Sometimes there's even medications you're taking from your doctor that may conflict with some of the over-the-counter medications that are included in it. And some of these, like the Dayquil, NyQuil, they have so many in them, sometimes it gets really hard to read. So we're always open for people to come and ask us, and we can help go over all the medications with you, make sure everything doesn't interact.
Thank you. So safer alternatives, when it comes to the pesky thing of sleep, I wish I could say I have a magic medication that helps with sleep. No, in our sleep, our evidence-based guidelines for all is the first line therapy is non-pharmacotherapy, which means not medication. And it is hard. That is another part, I guess I didn't share, but our sleep cycle changes. It gets worse as we age. And you may be experiencing this, and I have the diagram that just shows that you're not sleeping in as deep of REM sleep. You might have more early morning awakenings. So the sleep problems are very real. They're part of our biological system. I guess it hasn't quite caught up with why is our sleep not as good as a baby's at this point. But baby sleep is relative too. So the sleep cycle does change as we get older. So there is one part that is to be expected. It doesn't make it any easier. What I'm sharing though is that, again, the first line is non-pharmacological, not medication. It's actually therapy, cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia. It is a form of therapy. But we also have, sleep hygiene techniques that, again, certain things can really remedy things. In some cases, this is great. These are the low-hanging fruits. Say they come to see me, they tell me they're waking up multiple times a night, and it's a male patient, and they're waking up multiple times a night to go pee. And I see, have you had your prostate checked? Are you on medication for your prostate? No. This is my low-hanging fruit. Okay, it might be time to go see if you might have an issue with your prostate. We get that medication. That gets better. But a lot of times it's not as easy as that. So, but being aware. So sleep hygiene, no screens, including the TV. Yes, I know there are individuals that fall asleep to the TV, need some type of white noise. My husband is one of them. I wear a sleep mask because I cannot sleep with those lights. But again, if you're watching, it does stimulate the brain a bit. So again, doesn't mean I'm telling you either, absolutely turn that TV off. But if you've not tried it, it's worth a shot. Anything further to add, Megan? So that was for sleep specifically. For pain, again, the same thing is almost always it's non-medication first line for pain or safer options. The other thing would be non-medication options, physical therapy, also occupational therapy. I'm having individuals that get acupuncture, and it's, depending on insurance, it's covered through their insurance. Same thing with chiropractors. So these alternative therapies that people may never have thought of before are options. That really pain is usually multiple things that we need to really think about and consider. That's the other thing, again, back to the sleep. Kind of the chicken or the egg, is it the pain or the sleep? A lot of times if we have uncontrolled pain, that leads to the trouble sleeping. If we get the pain under better control and management, the sleep will more naturally improve. So also, just again, making sure that we take advantage of all the different modalities. And again, medication can be indicated, but making sure we're on safe regimens. And then just, again, safer medications always. So getting the routine evaluation by a pharmacist to see how is the dose. Is the dose appropriate? Is it appropriate based on how your kidneys and your liver's working? Is it appropriate potentially based on your age, potentially based on your gender? My fun fact that might not be as fun for you, but is fun for me, is that Ambien or Zolpidem. We have some of you heard of Ambien or Zolpidem? Fun fact that I have is that it actually is the one medication that I'm aware of in which the dose in females is lower than in males. And it gets chewed up a little differently. And so I'm also in that particular medication checking based upon the gender. We don't typically have these disparities, but in this particular case, Ambien is one of those. Avoiding high-risk medications whenever possible, but making sure, again, is there a reason that you're taking it? Is it appropriate for you? Is it at the right dose? So as I mentioned a little bit, safety habits. So really, really encourage to have an updated medication list. Do not rely on the list that is in your doctor's computer. We see this is full-time job for many folks of cleaning up those lists. So do have a copy, even if it is when you most recently went to the doctor and it's like, oh, this looks completely correct, good. I advise you to have a printed copy, take a screenshot if it's on a device, something of that list at that moment in time, because again, those change so quickly. And I would say, yeah, I wish I could say we do a really good job of keeping these updated medication lists in the doctor's office, but this is full-time jobs. This is also where preventable things occur, duplicate medications. So keeping your own accurate list and making sure others know where that is. As I mentioned, what are the two other things, my test question, what are the two other things I'd like you to include on your medication list is if you have what? Eyeglasses or hearing aids. Just kind of an FYI.
And allergies.
Allergies, yes. Allergies to medication, that is a great one. Yes, thank you for bringing that up. Yes, allergies to medications and ideally what the reaction is. If it is that you need an EpiPen, I know I definitely don't want to give you this medication. If it's that the allergy is that you get a little bit of nausea, okay, in a life or death situation, we might need to, I'd be okay with it. But in a regular everyday, probably not. So that's always good to have too, is the reaction. Thank you. Then using a pill organizer. I know I self-disclosed. I need to take my own advice with my one prescription that I take, just one pill a day. I need a pill organizer because I can, for the most part, keep track of the day of the week. If not, my phone does. And I could see if I took it or didn't take it instead of the guessing game that I play. So likewise, pill organizer. They have so many different varieties. They have some that are humongous, that are multiple times a day. They have some that are smaller. They have one, my mother-in-law has a pill organizer that is about this big, and it just is for, I think hers is for a day, and it looks really cute, and it's a nice little zipper pouch. So lots of different options for you. Other thing is never share medications. I do realize cost is a factor. Being able to get in to be seen can be a factor, but really, really avoiding sharing medications that aren't prescribed for you. Obvious reasons, but, really, again, for safety, making sure, the dose and the medication are appropriate for you. Avoiding common mistakes. So one is not crushing medications unless you've checked about it. The reason for that is medications, specifically medications that are usually extended release, meaning they get released over a long period of time in our body. Usually that extended release part is in the coating. So when you crush it, you ruin that part. So just making sure, I've had patients well, it wasn't crushing, but sometimes you can open capsules and sprinkle on applesauce or things. Make sure, check with the pharmacist if that is a medication you can do that with. Had patients that didn't want to swallow the capsules, so they told me they were opening their capsules, and they also felt that they were having side effects unless they had about half of the powder that was in the capsule. I did not recommend this strategy. I had no idea by this strategy, how much medication a half of a capsule of powder was. But again, there are some times where this would be appropriate, that we could have sprinkled that onto some applesauce. So just being aware not to just crush everything until you've had that checked.
How about cutting your medication?
Oh, great question. So cutting the medication in half also depends. So for those extended release medications, the same thing can occur, is that cutting in half could destroy that extended release part that's making it last longer. So that would be an example of a medication that you may not be able to cut. But I always recommend to double check. Now, if you're prescribed a half of a pill, typically, well, you would think this has already been assessed, but sometimes don't make assumptions. So cutting is another. Cutting and crushing, I would say, are kind of one and the same. The other thing I have is there are medications that don't always have a nice line to cut along. I've had individuals ask, does that mean I don't cut it? And I say, not necessarily. Sometimes they just didn't make it look nice that way. And you can still cut it. So just to be aware of that as well. Anything to add, Megan?
If swallowing is an issue, if you needed to do a half or open the capsule, a lot of times there is different formulations. So there's dissolvable ones or packets that you can mix in. So you can always ask your doctor about things like that. But kind of going off what you were saying, if the doctor says to take half a tablet, I've had doctors write to take a quarter of a tablet before. So we've had to contact them and say, hey, you can't do that. There's no way you can take this tiny pill and accurately cut a quarter of a tablet. So we'll talk with them. Or sometimes they don't know that this formulation can't be cut. So a lot of times, your pharmacist, we can look it up pretty quick if it can be crushed or cut in half. So it's always an easy thing just to ask us. We can pull it up really quick.
And I thought of something and I lost it with that. But the formulations. Yes, that there's also that possibility of a liquid formulation versus a pill. Not always. We also have medications that we could do a shot versus an everyday tablet. It really does just depend. And so this is where being an advocate for yourself is important, so that all providers are aware of what are your needs and how can we best address those needs. So alcohol came up. Alcohol, not to be confused as a medication. Again, although some may use it as such, that is not what its intended use is, but avoiding medications and use of alcohol. Is it completely absolutely you cannot enjoy a glass of wine and take medication? No. Now, there are some medications that really you can't do that. Otherwise, really we just want to make sure and be mindful of, when might be using alcohol and the safety with your medications. Because again, when it comes to the opioid medications or Xanax, Ativan are kind of work very, very much the same as alcohol. So if you took that and had some drinks, it's not going to be a safe combination. You're going to probably feel very, very unwell. And likewise, an opioid medication with alcohol, that increases the likelihood of an accidental overdose. So just to be aware, I'm not saying absolutely no alcohol at all. It's just being mindful of what are your medications, how much are you drinking, and could this affect them? Because chances are there will be an impact. Other thing is, don't stop your medications immediately. Now, if there is something life-threatening happening, by all means, stop the medication. But on a regular basis, you may not feel that you need it. A lot of times we have our silent medications that, yeah, you may not feel that you need it. And also, maybe simply that the medication was very much working, and then we stop it and have problems. So definitely highly recommend not to stop and not to stop abruptly. And then to make sure your provider is aware of your reason for stopping, or, you've asked, can I stop this medication? Anything to add about stopping or discontinuing medications, Megan?
Not necessarily. I just know, like, even from my own personal experience, like my mom, my dad, sometimes they do that. They'll stop completely cold turkey with meds, and they'll be just super hormonal for a week. Or like my mom will start having heart palpitations, and it's like she doesn't think that they're working, but once she stops it, you kind of get those effects where it's like, oh no, maybe it was actually doing its job.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
The dosage, some of them say take every 3 hours. Others say take 3 times a day. So you wake yourself up in the middle of the night, or 2 o'clock if it's 3 times a day, or that always confuses me.
No, I agree. It is confusing. This is also my plug for the pharmacist. Because there are certain medications that we might actually really need that strict time. Typically, it's usually not the case. And if I hear that somebody is setting an alarm to wake up in the middle of the night to take like a blood pressure medication, usually that's not necessary. Usually we just need to maybe even change the instructions on the medication or make sure that the provider changes, updates that. But I would say that's another great question to pose to the pharmacist to ask about. Is it really stuck to this? Sometimes as the pharmacist, we may not know why the doctor wrote it that way, so even for us to just find out. But that is a great question. Does it have to be the exact time apart? Typically not. Typically not. As close to things as you possibly can is usually the best rule of thumb, but the time you wake up every day might change. The time you go to bed it changes a little bit. So if you take your medication a little bit at a different time, usually not too concerned. There are, again, always exceptions to this. Medications that you might need to take before a meal are usually medications that you always have to take before a meal, and so not necessarily, but again, there are things that we can kind of fine tune and adjust. So great question. And then let me see here. And then tools for safety. So in this case, again, just being aware, setting alarms if you do need to. Calendar, phone reminders. Calendar definitely for some of those medications or anything that might not be on a daily basis, but maybe is once a month, once a week, having some type of reminder. Maybe it's a sticky note on the mirror, a sticky note somewhere that you see it, that today's the day to take a medication. Again, the use of the pill box can be helpful. Asking for, if you are having trouble seeing the instructions, a larger print label, larger printout of the instructions. And what we would call a brown bag, talk with a pharmacist that you are. And actually, there is medication therapy management services that typically get covered with Medicare plans, which is an annual comprehensive review of your medications, but also going to a pharmacist that you trust with your medications in a brown bag for them to evaluate everything. And I always like when people bring me the pill bottles that they're using to maybe fill up their pill box, pulling directly from, because I also find, do we have multiples that we can consolidate into one pill? Are we accidentally taking 2 different doses and there is a mistake somewhere here? So I do actually like to see all those supplies come that you are regularly kind of pulling from or using. All right, then the next just little bit is prevention. So why does prevention matter? I mean, because we want to prevent any complications. We want to stay as healthy as we can for as long as we can. We want to avoid more medications. And I would say as a pharmacist, I don't think our reputation always aligns with what the reality is of the fact that, you know, I've had family members that are like, oh, you just want to you want to see more pills. No, actually, if anything, I'm trying to get rid of some of these. I'm usually trying to get rid of stuff. We want to make sure the medications are optimized. And having the prescribing cascade or that polypharmacy is not what I want to see. That is not like job security for me. No, that is just not good. It's not good for anyone involved. So really one of the biggest points of prevention are going to be vaccines. So vaccines. So in general, there is actual specific guidance based off of age as well as based off of select different medical conditions or other things as to what is the vaccine schedule, what vaccine should you receive. Kind of across the board is the flu shot. Now, there are always exceptions. There are some individuals who may not be able to receive a flu shot, but I'm just kind of saying, generally speaking, flu shot and getting that annually. COVID-19, as we see with the COVID-19, it's now becoming such that it is also moving to an annual shot, typically 1 to 2 injections, so that being, again, another kind of annual one in combination with the flu shot. Pneumonia vaccine, depending upon any comorbid conditions or other medical conditions or other things, there are a couple varieties of the pneumonia vaccine, and a specific one may be recommended for you, or you might be indicated for an updated or a different version. So that's another one. Not annual. Shingles vaccine, so Shingrix, prevents the painful shingles rash. It can still occur just as with the other, but will hopefully very easily reduce the severity of that infection. It is a 2-dose series. The shingles? Oh, good question. So it should be actually 2 shots and you're good. So the caveat is that there is age-based guidance. So it is, I think, is it 50? Yeah, 50 years plus is when you're first indicated, and then you get 1 shot, and then at least 2 months later you get a second shot. But then it's not been recommended to receive any further doses. Shingles. The other one is Tdap, tetanus shot. This one is typically every 10 years. Every 10 years for this one. And then a new one that just was first available last year was RSV. So this vaccine, this one is for 60 plus, respiratory syncytial virus, but another respiratory illness that can be really, really bad in older individuals as well as really young individuals. So this one just became available. I am not sure at this point if this is going to, I suspect this might be annual. I'm not sure actually. Megan, have you? Okay. So this one, at least, again, it just became available in, I think, 2024. So if you haven't gotten it, I would definitely recommend to see, are you a candidate for this one?
And that's another great plug for the pharmacy too. If you can't get in to see your doctor and you're wondering which ones you qualify for or which ones you may need, you can always ask the pharmacist. They can pull up all the guidelines and show you, hey, based off of your age or these different diagnoses that you have, you should have these vaccines.
And that might be, and hopefully so, that is one place where I think us pharmacists have done a good job is promoting vaccines, sometimes to a detriment that I've been asked 10 times, each flu season if I've received it. But again, making sure this is really a good step for prevention. So medication and vaccines. I also recommend keeping a vaccine record with the medication list, not on the list, but just to have, the approximate date that you last received the different vaccines. Especially when it comes to Tdap, the one that's every 10 years. That's a tricky one to remember when you last got it, in particular. And then, again, the reason behind vaccines is to prevent infection. If you still get the infection, again, preventing the severe infection that these really can lead to. So the questions that I recommend to ask at every visit, especially if you're itching to reduce the medications you're on, maybe you're not, but just again, just to ask, have that conversation, because the best advocate is going to be yourself. Do I still need the medication? And also, understanding what is the medication being used for. That's a piece of information that's also very helpful for all the different providers, because we have medications that are for a lot of different uses as well, but knowing what is the reason for use, are there safer alternatives, and what side effects should I watch for, especially with new medications or if there's a dose increase, being sure that you're aware of medications. I won't put a plug in really for reading the paper that you get with the medication that lists every known side effect known to mankind. So I do really encourage, again, asking the pharmacist, asking a physician what side effects to watch out for so that we can kind of give you the most common. But also, I also like to make sure individuals, even if it's something that's not listed that I've ever seen before, if there does seem to be a time part that you took this and all of this happened, I want to keep that in mind. So also don't discredit if it's not a side effect that was told to you, but it's something you think is related, to share that as well. Anything further to add, Megan?
Yeah, sometimes even if you're in the hospital, I've seen a lot of times when people get discharged, they'll put them on certain medications for stomach acid or something, where they only want you really on it for a month, but they don't state it in the paperwork. So a lot of patients will come out thinking that this needs to be something that's recurrent and they just stay on, but it's not necessary, and it increases your risks of having adverse reactions later down the line.
Since you're on that subject, can we touch on expiration of medication?
Yes, so good question. So expiration of medication. So prescription medication, the bottle will always say 1 year from the date it was filled is typically the expiration for that medication. Now, over-the-counter medications, there is an expiration date on those. When it comes to the prescription medications, I would say it depends how closely I recommend. So I do recommend when you are not to be taking something anymore, get rid of it. Get rid of it. You can mix up coffee grounds, dirt into the vial and throw that away. Perfectly fine. Some pharmacies do have an actual, it looks like a mailbox that you put the medications in and it gets disposed of. So if you're not to be taking it anymore, I recommend getting rid of it. However, again, not always following my own advice. Well, I am in this case. So the one prescription medication that I have, there was a point in time, I don't remember, that somehow I ended up, maybe I had more than I thought. And I don't know how this had happened, but I ended up having more. I didn't dump it because we do know medication does cost money. If it's something that you've been taking and you have it and it's just a little shy of that, I would say that's not detrimental to dispose of. But it's really if it's something you're not to be taking or if there was a dose change, I highly recommend to get rid of those medications so that we don't have any confusion. Also, with the expiration date for over-the-counter medication, you didn't hear it from me, I usually give myself a couple months past the expiration date. Just depends. It really is on your storage. If it's in a dry, cool place, I should disclose that. If it's a dry, cool place, that's usually where I give a couple months from that expiration date, especially if it's something, I'm trying to think of something that just recently, I had children's Advil that had expired, I think a month prior. You know, I still use that. It was in a dry, cool place. If you keeping your medications in a very humid, where you're taking your shower, that's where we actually do need to stick closer to those expiration dates, because there could be an actual, the product might degrade. I don't know. Megan, any further advice?
Excuse me, one question. How reliable is Google when you Google a medication and it gives you all the information about that medication? How reliable you go with Google when you Google the medication?
Great question. When you Google the medication, I would say it really just depends. It really depends. So Google's pulling everything it can find out there on the web, of which, do we have accurate information? Yeah. Do we have inaccurate information? Yeah. So it depends, I would say, on what is the question or what is the information you're trying to find. I always recommend to, talk to the pharmacist for a lot of those questions. Where I run into trouble with Google is with side effects. My Google doctors that are looking for the side effects, you're going to get, again, the list of side effects from every known man, and they scare me to death. But what is the likelihood? How often has this occurred? And all of the people that have taken it is the part that Google doesn't tell you. And so that's where, again, I highly recommend checking with a provider. But again, you can definitely get some information, and it can be accurate information. If you wanted to Google so I guess I Google image Tylenol PM, and the label came up. It got pulled from CVS Health. I trusted that. That was Tylenol PM at CVS. So it really, I would say, it depends on the question you're asking too. But I try to discourage the side effect, because that stuff it brings it all in.
Well, here in Sun Lakes, we have an emergency plan, EPAP, and they suggest that you have a go bag in case of an emergency, and in that go bag, you're supposed to put medications. Well, it occurs to me that I haven't looked at that go bag for maybe 6 months. So how long do you wait before you check to see if those medications are okay?
That is a great question. I think, let's add that in. We're going to check her go bags. I would say probably every 6 months is a good time frame to check, especially for the medications. You should also, I would definitely include the list of those medications, because you could have had changes very easily in the 6 months. Why I say probably looking every 6 months is more than just the medications alone, but that is a great point. So it would be medications, making sure, is this actually what you're still taking? If it's expired, again, I'm looking at how expired, but really, are you even still taking it, or has there been changes? The other thing is, I have my own go bag. I need to update my own go bag, so this was a good reminder to me. My go bag, I did it, and the clothes are not correct. So for the most part in California, we can generally be okay with, maybe shorts or a t-shirt and jeans. But I would also say that's also probably another good time to just make sure, is everything else in that go bag still appropriate? Are the batteries and is that flashlight still working? Just some of those other things. I'm not sure, are some of the things I'm listing part of these go bags? Okay, perfect. Yes.
I had a question. I'm concerned about the interaction of vitamins and minerals with the medications that you may be taking, it could really significantly impact adversely, or the efficacy of the medication itself could be impacted by those. What do you recommend? B12, A, C, E, especially B. But there's adverse impacts related to those.
Yeah, so great question here with vitamin supplements. So I think, for the most part, as I'm just looking here, I think really we've hit all of the key talking points I have. So I think this is also great. I know we've been asking questions, but I think this is a great time for us to just transition to questions or other information you want to know. So vitamin supplements. So the one caveat we have with them is that they're not regulated by the FDA like our prescription or over-the-counter. Even our over-the-counter medications all go through the FDA. So I'm always confident in what is in these products. The vitamins and supplements are not, so there's not as much certainty. Now, does this mean I am in no way saying to stop taking these? Rather, what I would say is, again, there is the need to compare the medications that you're taking with what supplements or vitamins that you want to take. Now, for certain vitamins, so you mentioned B12, we do, there are levels that, blood levels that can be drawn. So B12 is one that they can determine, do you need it or not? Likewise, vitamin D is something that, you can get a blood level drawn to see, is this something you need or not? But not all things, we don't do that for everything. We just don't know. So I would say if you're thinking about adding that, view it as adding another medication to the list. And so making sure that somebody checks it. We don't always have as much information, like I said, because it hasn't gone through the FDA with the safety and efficacy for the supplements. But I would say that is something to be aware of. So that is a great question. And that too, that there can be some really severe interactions if this doesn't get assessed before starting it. Yes.
This sort of piggybacks on what Bob said. Excuse me. Could you touch on the use of CBD/THC gummies, whatever, vaping? A lot of people in here are doing it.
So THC, CBD gummies. So how I have viewed this in a sense is that we have two FDA approved products there's I think a couple THC based and one CBD based. The CBD based product that is FDA was studied, proven to be effective is for a very severe type of seizures, Epidiolex. And it's actually not something that's used in all individuals that have seizures, but in particular seizure types, very severe, very refractory, meaning it doesn't respond well to treatment. So that currently is the only FDA-approved use for CBD. THC, the FDA-approved product is for, it was an appetite or nausea vomiting, I think chemotherapy induced. So the reason I mention these is that all of the other things that have come out into the world about CBD curing everything under the sun and THC has not been, again, it unfortunately really hasn't. I wish this was all true. I wish I could say, this is a magical thing that's come available. It might feel magical, but unfortunately, like I said, I would say the level of evidence is still pretty limited. Now, does it mean not to take these products? No, but it means to be mindful as well. So one is that they're not regulated by the FDA. So like the CBD oil that I'm talking about, the Epidiolex, it is pharmaceutical grade. Dispensaries will tell you it's pharmaceutical grade, but this is not an FDA regulated place. So there can still be impurities, AKA THC. That's one thing, is again, the purity could still be a little bit questionable, so the effect could be questionable. Then the THC, kind of similarly. Now, do I have individuals that use use these products and find benefit? Absolutely. I just would say, how is it affecting you? Is it safe? Is it going to be an interaction with other medications that you're taking? Is it also, I would say that's kind of the big thing, is that, it is something that I do have a lot of people. It's not something I say, I don't recommend it to somebody that's telling me I'm having a lot of trouble sleeping. I'm not recommending take some CBD, lather yourself in CBD oil, because that's not what the evidence shows. But, I'll have individuals that come and say, I've been using CBD. I want to know, how is it working? If it's working and there's not safety concerns, okay. If you're okay to pay that cost, I'm not here to really say otherwise. It's still, it's completely appropriate. But I would say, unfortunately, I'm not aware of the miracles that it kind of claim to fame seemed. I'm not sure, Megan, anything further to add?
I think so, yeah. Just kind of watching how it affects you and seeing if it has any adverse effects on you, or, if you're noticing anything like, oh, well, I'm noticing side effects like this. And if you tell your pharmacist, they might tell you that might be because it's interacting with this, or your doctor, one of the two. So just kind of being cautious and keeping an eye out for any changes that it might be.
But it's legal, obviously it's legal. So again, from that part, there's not concerns. It's really just more of a, safety, and then, possible efficacy and cost. Other questions?
I have one question for the sleeping issue. Someone had told me by taking magnesium before you go to bed seems to help with falling to sleep and hopefully staying to sleep. How high of a dosage can you take of magnesium?
Oh, that is a great question. So, Megan is my scribe. So I have to look into the dose. I would say magnesium seems to really be, I would say what I've observed anecdotally is magnesium seems to be having, I don't know if it's a comeback or if it's second coming at all right now, but there seems to be lots of talk of magnesium. And so generally, actually where I see it is that it can help with sleep. We also see it sometimes help with preventing migraines, helping to regulate the bowels. A lot of times that is the biggest caveat. So we'll have to look to see what's kind of recommended for sleep. But I know what I can say is that a lot of times people are having trouble increasing the dose, because if you've not taken it or tried it, it usually makes you go. And so that tends to usually be more of the problem. So if you're constipated, that's another use for magnesium. But that is also where I do see the people can't get to too high of a dose because they're just needing to go to the bathroom too much. Yeah.
Can you get enough magnesium from, say, a banana? Or is enough, or potassium? Oh, sorry.
Well,
But,
but
I mean,
it's
but
possible
fruits.
bananas might have magnesium, but I'll admit, I'm at a loss for what food contains magnesium. Megan, do you know? So,
Potassium.
greens, okay.
Yeah.
Or like being out in the sun will give you all the vitamin D that you need?
So this is a great question. So I guess maybe if I make it more general, can we typically get all of the vitamins we need naturally? A lot of times, yes. This is where it can be helpful if you really don't want to buy something else. This can be helpful if there is just checking a vitamin D level. Do you even need it? If so, then you could take it. But a lot of times, yes, that vitamins, we do find that it doesn't tend to be necessary, but there's obviously cases when we do need certain vitamins. Or that people try taking a vitamin to see if it helps with sleep. And so some of this trial and error can be something else.
And I can actually give a fun fact on that one with the potassium. Bananas are actually, everyone knows them for being like potassium loaded. They're in like the top top 1,000 foods that have potassium. They're actually not very rich in potassium.
Wow.
Yeah, I just learned that last week.
Yeah, which food does have a lot of potassium?
I don't remember. I just remember him showing that, everyone thinks potassium, you go straight to bananas, and it's not.
Yeah, I do think oranges have more than bananas, but there's something else that I would have to look.
One of the sources of magnesium is dark chocolate.
Oh, actually, is it cherries too? Cherries. It might be cherries. Because you don't have them drink cherry juice before you go to bed. It's supposed to help you sleep.
Oh.
That one I just like.
Dark cherries covered with chocolate. Are there any other questions for Jessa or Megan? Well, I'd like to thank you so much. This was very interesting, and we appreciate you coming out here and giving us some good information. So I just want to let you know our next community awareness will be next month. I believe it's the 7th of, what's the date? October. And it is going to be Tech on Wheels. And I know everybody has seen that in our magazine, but it's going to be Tech on Wheels, and you can bring your computers or your phone or whatever you want, and the techs will be here afterwards to help you do anything you need to have done with it. So, pardon? Yeah, well, all right. Just to let you know, Tech on Wheels cannot go to your home and do any work on your computer, your TV set, or anything like that. It is a county function, and the county will not allow them to go to your home, obviously for reasons. So anyway, thank you, everybody, and I appreciate everybody coming. Thank you.